Lucas, I'm heading over to P4B, all right? So I'm going for a quick tour of the one of the buildings that we're looking after over here in East Point, and I thought, while I'm doing that, sure, why don't you guys tag along with me? So heading over. So I'm in East Point, which is where I manage here in Dublin, and I've got to get my safety gear because we're going to be going onto a building site. Hey Jay, good to see you. Jason, I just put on the sunglasses. In fact, I managed to get a selfie stick, so maybe this will be a little bit easier. Yeah. So, mate, can you hear me okay? It's a bit further away from me than my arm can stretch. So, So I got a question. It's funny, I went and posted yesterday on Tears of Freedom group, and I've had 3 or 4 requests to join my my Facebook group Behind the Facade, and it's so it's great to have a couple of guys on board. Hear you loud and clear, great stuff. So I am going to walk over to a building I'm managing, P4B, and it's a building that we built back in 2001, so it's coming up on 20 years old, and the tenant that was in it has vacated. Well, there's multiple tenants on each floor, but the tenant that vacated was in for 20 years. So during that time that they have been in occupation, obviously the fit out gets old and tired, so we have to go and do some work to it, and it's quite a big job. I mean, a couple of years ago, spending money on a fit out was not the huge money it is now. It is costing us, I think, about 750,000 to fit out this floor, and that is money that you spend, and then shortly afterwards you hope to secure a tenant. We don't have a tenant lined up, and it's a little bit worrying in a sense, because you're spending 750 grand, and at the end of that, you don't know, the tenant might come in and say, oh, you know, those ceiling tiles, we'd like something different. Guys, check this out. I'm just going to rotate the camera there for a second. You'll find this interesting. So this is our lake, but have a look at this guy here. We have a bit of wildlife in the park, and he's going to go for it'll fly off now in a second. Yeah, there he goes. Anyway, rotating the camera back. Yeah, so we call that guy Captain Ahab, because that is the whale pond, and believe it or not, there's an old I think they're called koi fish. You know, these Japanese, they're huge, big things that swim around. Anyway, it's been like 15 years living in this lake of ours, and it's huge and it's white. So we call the fish Moby, and we call the heron Captain Ahab, and the two of them live side by side and have done for years. I can't read the comment. Love herons. Yeah, they're amazing. They're huge birds. Anyway, so walking along in the direction of P4B, I'll take the camera so you can actually see the size of this place. It's pretty quiet at the moment because of COVID-19, but I'm walking up the main avenue now, and we're going into that building at the very top there. So Oracle are in this building, Google are in this building, and in fact that's the entire avenue. It's Oracle on one side and it's Google on the other. So let me rotate this back. I don't think I'll walk up the main avenue completely in the center. So the work that we do here in the park it's pretty extensive. As you can see, we actually have 1,700 trees here in East Point. So the watering of that alone, we've had this great weather for the last couple of days, and it's been a really nice warm spell, but actually that is a problem for us with all of the trees. And last year we had a hose pipe ban, and the hose pipe ban came in, and we were finding it quite difficult to keep the trees alive. So with 1,700 trees, we're constantly connecting up to the water hydrants for the fire hydrants basically, and when we connect them up, we just pour gallons of water out over the trees and try to keep them all lush, and it's pretty good. You can see, you know, this park has won awards multiple times for landscaping and things like that. And now this is Oracle's building. They actually spent a fortune on this place. So that building was built back in 1996, but Oracle bought it themselves, and they turned the building in completely inside out. They broke it down to basically the concrete shell, and then they completely rebuilt it. So it's the original design, and the framework and all that is there, but it's all brand new. So that glass, that everything is new. And the building is completely full of sensors and all this new technology. There's the name board for these guys. So there's all the companies that actually operate out of that. Yeah. It's pretty spectacular building. And I've been in there multiple times, and they have this amazing gym. They have an amazing meditation room. They got this canteen that just put most restaurants to shame. And it's all about this war for talent that these tech companies typically are on. And so they spend a huge amount on their buildings, create this palace, and then they expect that the staff are going to be like golden handcuffed to the place. Let me rotate the camera here again. We're going up the steps now. This is the East Point Plaza. You can see the nameplate there. So Enterprise Ireland are in this building, and Enterprise Ireland are in this building, and they are a semi-state company that basically supports startup business and things. This is an old sculpture. What's that question there? Beautiful day for viewing. Yeah, it's very nice. Nice to see you, Andrew. So this here is a sculpture by an architect, or not an architect, just an artist called Michael Warren. There's the main avenue there that I've just walked down. And I've got a couple of videos. I actually have let me rotate this again. I have a video channel for East Point that the tenants mostly watch, and it's kind of local news for the park, how the park is running and all that. If you want to check that out, because I do some drone photography, and you can get a full flavour of the size of this place. But this waterfall probably is a bit noisy. The East Point YouTube website is East Point Dublin, all one word, East Point Dublin. And yeah, we're going in now, so let me just rotate the camera. This lobby is currently under refurbishment. This is we decided when we were doing the first floor, since the tenants have moved out, we decided that we can actually, we should do the lobby as well, because you're going to have people coming into the building and they're going to be looking for, how, new and fancy it looks. And they go up to their own office where they could potentially be renting. It's going to be beautiful, all the latest tech and everything like that. But when they come into the lobby, if it's a 20-year-old fit out, it's not going to look great. So we decided to completely refurbish the lobby as well. And what we used to have, I'll actually show you now in a second, we used to have two big sort of planting areas, and the planting areas were just a big atrium, and that was the design back 20 years ago. But now what we have is we're going to turn it into like a co-working space or a flex office space. Okay, so I'm going to rotate the camera so you can kind of see the work going on in here. Hey Liam. Right, so looking up. Jason, you'll be familiar with some of this stuff. And these guys are the guys doing our fit out. And we're actually building a new toilet block over there. There's our lift block. We've got the various. So here's the atrium, and you can see there's a bit of work going on in here. So this was all planted up, and what we had to do is dig out all of the soil and everything like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a new floor down here. It's going to be like a timber floor and a carpeted area, and it's going to be brand new kind of co-working space in this atrium. And the idea is that people can, nice fan coil units. Right, we're going up the stairs to check out this first floor. I'm going to have to ask for the foreman when I walk in. All of these offices are empty at the moment, with the exception of maybe one or two staff members who are there to, keep the place oiled up, I guess you could say. Now, let me just put on my gear, safety gear. These guys nowadays are pretty serious about health and safety, so you don't walk in, whether you're paying the bills or not, you don't walk in and start walking around, because it just sets a bad example, and the guys can actually get fines for not having the proper equipment on any kind of visitor or whatever. So I'm going to stick on the hard hat. Andrew, do you see COVID affecting business for office and in the future? Yeah. There is going to be an impact, but I'll actually talk about that. I'll just do a quick tour and then we'll have a quick look at that. I'm going to go in through this door over here. Is Rob around? Is Rob around? Rob.
Rob is
Around the other side. It's a bit noisy in here, so I'll save the questions to afterwards, okay? Rotate the camera, you can see what's going on. So this here is a floor, and we've kind of stripped it out completely. We've got the, I don't know if you guys can actually hear me now, but the ceiling has come out completely, and it's all new AHU's air conditioning system going in, brand new lighting, all on sensors, and we're going to keep the floor deck because that hasn't really changed that much. Hold on a second. Is that Rob? How's the form? I'm just doing a bit of a tour for the social media. So I'll talk to you in a bit, but I got all the hard hat and stuff, so I'm good. No, I think I'm grand, yeah. Thanks. Now, so there you saw the lifts downstairs. So they're coming in here. That's the lift block. And you can see actually they're starting to prep the area now for the new AC system. So those are dampers for the fire. So if there's a fire, they can actually seal off that. Going to check out the toilets. We're getting the toilets completely refurbed. Oh yeah, they've put in the floors and everything. Nice. So this is the new floors. This was all quite dated looking, and those were granite sinks with mirror on the back there. And we're replacing all of that. And then this is basically men's urinal would go there, and the cubicles would go there. So there's going to be a shower. Obviously there's a disabled unit in there, and then there's going to be a shower unit in there. A bit bright with those lights. Takes you back, does it, Jade? Yeah, I actually love this part of the job, to be honest. I love going into sites and looking around, and it reminds me of when I was growing up. My dad used to bring me on his tours, and I'd be running around scaffolding and all sorts of stuff. Not a particularly safe thing for a kid to be running around a building site, but that's how I grew up. So anyway, I'm going to walk around. I think that's enough of a tour. It's a good big space though. So the total floor area here is, I'll rotate back and we'll get out of here because the noise is too much. Okay, so there you go. There's into the void where the planters are, and you can see on this side we have the very same. Down, this is where the stairwell is. So those were two huge big planters. Hold on, I'll get this this selfie stick going again. That's better. It's a visitor. Yeah, it's good as a visitor. Now, hold on a second. I'm going to take all this stuff off again. Try and get back onto the tour of the park. So what I wanted to kind of talk about, actually, John Hayes has joined up. He was the first new guy that signed up to the group yesterday. And John asked a question about raising capital and saving capital in order to invest, become an investor. He's already bought something. Hold on, let me just get through the lobby here.
But I know this one here is...
See you later, Liam.
See you later. This one here is the main...
So there's actually, before I get into that question from John, we have a bit of a... I just talk about what's going on in that lobby there. So trying to manage an active building while you're doing fit out is quite challenging because you've got people that are working in the building coming and going every day, and obviously builders, they need to drill, they need to dig up, they need to do all sorts of stuff. And if you're, answering phone calls and the guy upstairs is kango hammering the floor, there's going to be a lot of noise, and that is not going to be appreciated. So this COVID-19 thing has actually, in many respects, been a bit of a blessing in disguise, because we have the ability to have the building basically empty for weeks now. It's been 2 weeks. This is the second week that the builders have been back, and they're pressing on to getting all the work done. While they are in the doing that, there's no disturbance. So we would have restricted hours, so the guys can do drilling between 7 in the morning and 9, and then they can do it from 1 to 2, and then they can do it after 5 until say 7 in the evening or something like that. And they don't like doing that because the building site's supposed to be closed by that stage, but them's the rules, and that's what we enforce, because there's the guys in the office guys paying rent are they do not want to be disturbed by guys with drills and everything like that. Okay, going back to the question John Hayes asked, and about raising capital and things like that. Thought I would do a very quick now this, you might think that this is the same heron, but this is actually a different heron, and this is the second one that lives in the park. We have 2 at different locations around the place. This one I think is bigger. He certainly looks taller standing up like that. There's our bus. So we have a bus service, and we put the bus service on normally because we've got, at any one time during a normal work day, we would have somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 people working in East Point in the various buildings. So these buildings here, so we've come from the buildings over there. This here is P3, that's Citrix are in there. P2, we have Virgin Media in there, although they're moving out, they're relocating to another place, and the landlord who owns that building has to try and find another tenant. This here is Block Or. This is another Google building, and so it's pretty. We have 4 tenants. Let me say that again. We have 2 major tenants that are like the giants in the place, and they're Oracle and Google. Oracle are in 7 of our buildings, Google are in 6 of them, and there's 37 buildings in total, and half of that is pretty much made up of those 2 tenants. Now we do have some other big guys, like we have Deutsche Bank, and we have that Enterprise Ireland building I showed you. They would be one of the larger employers on the park as well. So if I look down here behind me, this building is Block Or, Google. This building, Block A, is Oracle. This building at the very end, Google. This building here, Oracle. You see what I mean? So now I'll actually take you up and show you. We have tennis courts and football courts for the tenants to use. And I'm going to bring you up there and give you a little show of that. That there is Block S. I'm actually bringing a guy in later on today. We are putting these new camera monitors that have a temperature gauge, so that when you walk in, you can walk up and it'll actually assess your temperature and tell you whether or not you are okay to work. And we're putting them into 4 of the buildings that I directly manage on the ground here, because they are multi-lets. Normally, you get a tenant in who occupies the entire building. You don't need to worry about that person. You don't need to worry about the building. Basically, there's a thing called an FRI lease, full repairing insuring lease, and that means that they are fully responsible for everything that happens to that building. And even though it's your building, they look after the repairs, the maintenance, the insurance, everything like that. When you have a multi-tenant building, so we have 3 floors and each floor has a tenant, when you have that, you're into managing the common areas yourself. So I have to go and send a cleaning crew in to look after the shared toilets and all of that kind of stuff. Rotate the camera to show you our tennis courts area. So this here, we just resurfaced the tennis courts a couple of weeks ago, so this is all looking pretty fancy. We have it locked because we don't want people using it without permission. So there's the tennis, and then we have the football over there. I'll rotate over here and show you. This is the football pitch. So anyway, rotate back. And then I'm actually in an area, this is like a beer garden. There's a pub here, and on Friday you want to see this place. It is rammed with all of the people that work in the place coming in for their Friday night. Now obviously COVID-19 has knocked that in the head. So we had the question about COVID-19, is it affecting offices? Definitely is affecting them. I have a lot of people that have obviously experimented with work from home, and the work from home is working pretty well. And so those guys, I'm going to go through here, those guys are starting to say, wow, you know, why have we got thousands of square feet of offices when our staff can actually just work from home? The problem with that is that corporate culture, and one of the reasons why Oracle have spent so much money on all of their buildings is that it affects recruitment. If you're sitting at home working at your kitchen table, you can basically work for anybody. It's, you know, it's basically the same environment every day, and that does not give you a huge amount of staff loyalty, in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong about that, but obviously if you've got perks and things like that, it'll help. But as far as I'm concerned, the reason they spend money on gyms, the reason they spend money on you know, meditation rooms, amazing kitchens with subsidized food and all that, they do all of this because it is attractive to the young tenants that they are trying to bring into the park. And they want to employ these guys that are hotshots, and up until recently it has been very much in favor of the tenants. The tenants could pretty much select wherever they wanted to work. They've got Facebook, they've got a bid against Facebook, they got a bid against Google, they got a bid against whatever. So these guys are doing everything to make it as attractive as possible without paying exorbitant fees. I'm back now on the other side of the pond. We saw the heron over there. You can actually see, I don't think you can see him, but he is in the plants over there, and we'll walk over and you might see him. He's actually walking around in the plants. I think he's looking for fish, and so that's proof that there's two heron. I wasn't, the guy didn't fly over, and he's flown back now. So getting into the question that John Hayes asked about raising capital, and this is something, one of the reasons that I find Jason's podcast so helpful. Here, Jason, there's another heron for you. I don't know if you spot him, but he's actually, his head sticking up there. One of the reasons I like Jason's podcast so much is it talks about you know, the mindset and restraint and saving as a kind of a systemizing your savings. So 10%, and then it grows and all this. This is a great approach, and I really strongly recommend that. But just assuming you have raised a little bit of capital for yourself and you want to invest in a property business or in a property asset, one of the thoughts that I've had is, I mean, so many people, they can get their hands on so much money, whether it's 10 or 20,000 or 50,000 or whatever it is, depending on your circumstances, or whether you've been left money by a relative or something like that. You will find that you want to go out there and you want to buy a property, and the banks have got certain rules around what the max you can borrow against the size of your deposit and all this, and that limits you to the amount of property that you can kind of go for. And so what I've often done in the past is I have tried to syndicate or partner up with other people. Now, probably the best approach is, the first thing you're going to ask yourself is, are you a passive or an active investor? Do you have the time on your hands to actually manage a building or go and do some work to add value to it? For example, one of the properties that I bought when I was younger was a house, and I just got it, sorry, just noisy. That's our green machine. Landscape guys go around in that. So British Airways, Datalex are in this building, British Airways are in the next building, and they're both travel related companies. So we have a feeling both of those guys are struggling at the moment and not too happy about paying rent and things like that. I'm just going over, we've got all these bike racks that we've installed, so I'm just going to check it out. Okay, so we just put in these bike racks the other day, and they're looking not really very much usage. You can see 3 bicycles, but 4 bicycles. We have We have about 1,000 people a day normally cycling into the park, about 2,500 people a day driving in and parking because we have that many car spaces. And then our bus service that I showed you earlier, we have multiple buses on in the morning for rush hour, and we do about 3,500 commuters on our buses a day during that time. Anyway, rotate the camera. We're actually putting a roof on this building here. This is block T, and you can see what we've got is, I actually posted this on my Instagram the other day, and it's a beautiful place to work, sir. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're pretty proud of it. Like we put a lot of effort into this. This is a 25-year project. It has taken, years. It has taken a generation basically to get this place to where it's at. My dad was actually involved in this before he died, and he had started the ball rolling with with his partners, and they went off and got the top architects in the country to kind of put together this master plan. And then, you start planting, but trees, they go in as saplings. These are not saplings anymore, as you can see. So this here is a scissors lift, and the reason we have that is we're actually replacing the roof surface up there at the moment. And I posted this on my social media. If you look at my Instagram for last Friday, you'll see I was actually up on the roof there. And the reason we have that is because, first of all, with COVID-19, none of the tenants want to have staff, our contractors, coming in through their office and potentially spreading COVID-19. But second of all, it's hugely disruptive. We're carrying up all these rolls of roofing felt and whatever it is that we're using on the roof up there. And the guys are bringing blow torches and cylinders of gas and all sorts of stuff. And when you've got all of that stuff going on, you do not want to be traipsing through a tenant's floor, because it's just going to piss them off. Hold on now, rotate, and there's the scissors lift. So that just basically, this piece here slides back in, the whole thing drops down, and you climb up a little ladder and you are up and down with all of your equipment and everything. So the guys are busy up there. That's the Feathersons we hired. So the replacement of that roof is costing about 35 grand, which is not too bad. Hold on, security guys are out doing their tour. So getting back to it, syndicating is the way I would think. Now, by that I don't mean sophisticated syndicating. I mean, if you've got a couple of friends, say, who are in some way tradesmen or who are able to add some sort of value to the partnership. So in my case, my background is architecture, project management, and I did a master's degree in planning and development. So I knew all of the stuff how to manage. I knew all of the stuff how to value a property. I knew I could talk turkey with the tenants in terms of leasing and all of that. So I added that aspect of it. And so what I did is I put on I provided a service as a project manager and development manager. So whenever I did a deal with somebody, what I would do is I would bring them in. They would put their money in, I put my money in. So say we were going 50-50 on a deal. He put his money down, I put my money down, and if I was the only one adding value, as in being the development manager or the project manager, I would get a fee from the partnership to pay me. And if you want to go and increase the size of your spend, the ability to acquire an asset of a certain size, probably the best thing to do is to collect together with a couple of guys, and depending on what property it is and whether you want to be that kind of an active person. But if you buy an old house, for example, what I said earlier, one of the deals I did when I was younger is I bought an old house and it was an executor sale, and the family, an elderly lady had died of old age. She'd lived in this house for 30 or 40 years. It was extremely old-fashioned. It had fireplaces in the bedrooms and all that kind of stuff. And I went in and completely refurbished it. And you've got to bring in tradesmen, electricians, plumbers, plastering, carpentry, all of that stuff. And if you've got friends that are in those trades, that is an excellent way to get work done with everyone chipping in and doing their bit. So if you think about it like this, if you can go and buy a place as a group of say 5 guys, put 20% down each, and if everyone is delivering something, you're going to have a situation where you can actually, you got one guy doing all the electricity. Now you won't expect him to pay for the electrical cables and stuff, but you expect him to work for free in terms of his time. Equally, you're working for yourself, you're working for your time. If you've got just a load of passive investors that just want to put money in and have nothing else, then you can go and charge them for whatever work it is that you do. And the partnership pays. You pay, if you're one of the partners, you also chip in as well, or you figure out some way to make it fair. But that's it. So that is a successful way of doing it. And it just allows you to kind of look at slightly bigger deals where there is more margin. And some of the time, the stuff that I have done, this is my office, by the way, I'm about to go in. You can look at, instead of looking at a property where you put your money down and you buy an apartment, you're now looking at an opportunity to maybe buy a small office building or something like that, you know, something that is Main Street in a town, in a central business district, and say it's a certain age or whatever, it's in a certain condition. You maybe can go in and you can refurbish the place with a group of friends who all add some contribution to it. Now, you got to know your stuff, because you're going to find that you've got people that are expecting a certain level of fit out, and if they're expecting a certain level of fit out and you haven't delivered on that, you're going to find it hard to rent, and you might find that you have to take out all the good work that you've done. So probably get agents on board for that kind of thing. Make sure that you don't have a situation where you find yourself badly advised and having to replace a lot of stuff. Residential is probably the easiest thing, but I tend to avoid it because it is extremely hands-on in terms of tenant management. As a commercial landlord, most of the time I just collect 4 checks a year from these big multinationals, and that's it. The only time I have to worry about the place is when their lease expires, and then I have a building that I have to let. But 4 checks a year, building is managed by them, unless the multi-tenant, and the multi-tenant, you've obviously got to go in and you got to look after the common areas. So the lobby area, that's why I'm getting this heat thermometer kind of thing put in today, because we're responsible for that lobby. So I have to get reports done up, how to do COVID-19 response, operational protocols, all of that. Anyway, who's just joined? I see we have 4 on the call now. So it's like, thanks guys. I don't think, unless you have a specific question, I'm gonna kind of close out this thing. It's been pretty, I don't know how long I've been on, but it's been a long enough one. So hope this has been helpful. And Sebastian, I hope this qualifies as a good live vid. Talk to you soon, guys.